Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video we are talking all about my top picks for fall eyeshadow palettes. I love fall. I know I've said that many times. It is by far my favorite season. I love fall tones so much. And that love of course trickles over into the types of eyeshadow palettes I like to reach for this time of year. So I've gone through my existing eyeshadow palette collection, come up with a nice healthy stack of eyeshadow palettes to give you makeup lovers some inspiration into eyeshadow palettes you may already own as well. So I hope that you guys are excited about this one. If you are new here, welcome. I hope that you will consider subscribing before you leave, and we had better jump into this palette because we've got a lot of eyeshadow palettes to talk about. So these are in no particular order, and I just want to say one more time, the purpose of this video is not to get you guys to feel like you need all these palettes in your life. It is to hopefully show you guys palettes that you may already own that maybe you've forgotten about. Maybe you can pull them out again this fall. But let's start with the smallest in size of the bunch, and that is the Huda Beauty Warm Brown Obsessions palette. This palette has been around for a very, very long time, has 9 shades inside, and 8 of the 9 shades are mattes. The only shimmer inside here is this center bronze shade, but it is a perfect fall bronze. It's a nice warm golden brown that is so beautiful no matter what your eye color is, no matter what your skin tone is. Now normally I like to go a little bit lighter than a color like this all over my lid, at least for the lightest part of my lid, but I can even pop a little bit of this matte on my inner corner and then top it with this shade and get a little bit more brightness out of it. But the biggest reason I love this palette so much is these matte shades are just so perfect. The tones are perfect for fall. They're nice and warm, but you get a good amount of variety in here as well. I'm such a fan of these red toned browns. They are so pretty. I love this kind of purpley toned brown along with this mauve right here. 2 more beautiful shades for your outer corner. You get a nice coral in here. You get these 2 really great transition shades as well, and then of course the gold right there, and let's go ahead and swatch this cream as well. I mean, the formula of these is just great. I love Huda's formula. I think it's fantastic. I do believe that CCOLOR Cosmetics makes a dupe for this palette. If I can find it, I will link it down below for you guys if you're looking to save a little bit of money. I have not tried that specific palette, but I actually do have another fall recommendation for you guys from CCOLOR Cosmetics. But if you happen to be checking out their website and shopping, I know you can get the dupe for this one for I think like $8 or $5. Highly recommend it, and if you are okay with spending a little bit more, I do think this is worth the $28 that you spend. My next pick for a great eyeshadow palette that you may already own is the Persona Identity 2 palette. I don't feel like I give this palette enough love on my channel. I talk about their original Identity palette so often that I feel like this one gets a little bit overshadowed. It is definitely the more colorful of the 2 palettes that they have, but I love the tones inside here. They are perfect jewel tones for fall. If you are someone that likes jewel tones or likes a subtle pop of color somewhere, I think this is the perfect palette for that. You guys know how much I love Persona's eyeshadow formula. The formula in this palette is every bit as good as her original palette, and the shades inside here are so pretty. I've created some really beautiful complete looks with this eyeshadow palette. You do get 4 staple shades inside here: the black, the brown, this kind of tan transition shade here, and also this matte cream, I would call it. So it has all of your building blocks for a great eyeshadow look, in addition to some really fun, beautiful pops of color and shimmer to create some really beautiful eye looks. I love this kind of raspberry shimmer shade right here. It is so pretty. I also love this deep purple, and this deep blue is absolutely stunning. Look at that blue. Oh. Of course, a good fall palette would not be complete without some form of a green and a gold and kind of an orangey terracotta sort of shade. I mean, look at those colors right there. They are so pretty. Oh my goodness, I just can't get over it. I also love this deep bronze in here. It is a very dark brown, but it is so pretty. If you like a brown smoky eye, it is a perfect color for that. I need to use this palette more than I do. I haven't pulled it out for a while, but fall, in my opinion, is the perfect time of year to pull this thing out and get some use out of it, and I am very excited to do that. For my next pick, I'm going with the Born to Run palette by Urban Decay. If I was to place a bet on the palette that I think the largest percentage of my viewers owned, I would go with this palette. I know so many of you guys have this palette and have probably had it for quite a while. I do love this palette still. There was a long stint of time where I considered this my #1 palette of all my palettes. I don't know that it still holds that place in my heart, but in the fall especially, this is such a good palette. This palette has everything that you could ever need. You get some berry tones, you get some oranges, you get a ton of different browns, both warm and more cool. You get some greens, even a deep silver and black for a nice smoky eye. Let me just swatch a couple of these for you guys. I mean, this is just such a great staple palette. I know there are so many of you guys that love this one. as well. There's just so much variety inside here. If you are someone that likes to switch up your eyeshadow looks quite often, you like variety, this is the palette I would recommend. I've seen this thing go on sale many times over the last year, so keep an eye out if you're interested in this one and you haven't had a chance to pick it up yet, but you still would like to. My guess is you'll be able to find this on sale, but I also believe that CCOLOR Cosmetics makes a dupe for this palette that a lot of people have spoken very highly of. Again, it's one I haven't tried myself, but I've heard really great things, so I'll link that one down below as well. Great palette. I do still love this one. I think as I've tried more palettes, there are a lot of other brands that I prefer, especially for their shimmer formulas. I don't think Urban Decay has my very favorite shimmer formula. It's not quite as punchy and reflective and metallic as I like my shimmer formulas to be sometimes, but that said, this is a great palette. Good quality, so much variety. I definitely would recommend it, especially for fall. The next fall palette recommendation I have for you guys is one that I've talked about many times. I think I've shared this palette the last 3 years in a row in the fall, and it is the Makeup Revolution Reloaded Division palette. I'm such a fan of this palette. Now, you cannot buy this at Ulta anymore. You might be able to find it in store, but I know online you can't pick this one up on Ulta's website anymore. They do, however, still sell this on the Makeup Revolution website. You can get this for $7, which is outstanding to me that you can get a 15 shade palette for $7. That's crazy to me. I do think it's really good quality. This is definitely not super high-end quality, but for the price you're paying, I do think it is really good. I love the 3 different tones of green they included inside here. You might know how I feel about my green eyeshadows. I absolutely love kind of army khaki green matte eyeshadows. They are some of my favorites. I love all 3 of these ones. They're all a little bit different. There they are right there. Oh, so pretty. I love that you get this caramel color and also this kind of mustard color right here. You get these 2 beautiful plum shades as well. A perfect chocolatey matte brown, a nice black, and a really nice kind of slate gray color if you want to keep things really nice and cool tone. I love this with the purples. It's such a pretty look. I will say the shimmers inside this palette are not as good as the shimmers in some of their other Reloaded palettes. Particularly this green, you really have to build this thing up. It's almost more of a cream. You really have to pack this shade on and go in with a couple different layers before you'll get that very sparkly, opaque payoff that you're seeing right there, but it is beautiful. I think this is such a fun palette. And if you are on a budget, one of the most affordable palettes that I'm talking about today, I have often said this, and I think this every time I pull this palette out. I think, man, if I could have a sweater, like a chunky cable knit sweater in every single shade in this palette, I would be the happiest girl, because I would love to wear these shades, not just on my eyes, but also on my body. My next fall eyeshadow palette recommendation that you may already own is the Jackie Aina palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. If you have been watching me since 2019, this was the most loved on and talked about palette for me of 2019. I instantly fell in love with this palette, and I think it is perfect for fall because it has all of the tones that I love, but it also has a little bit of variety. I know there are some people that are intimidated by this palette because as soon as you open it with all the pinks and purples kind of arranged together there in one section, you think color and a lot of color, but really these colors are quite appropriate for fall. These purples are very deep, very jewel toned. This matte berry shade right here is so pretty and so very fall appropriate, and there are just so many other tones in here that scream fall to me. The greens, the taupe, the browns, this kind of burnt orange, this greeny gold right here. Is it Dwala's? Yeah, Dwala's. Love this shade. One of my favorites. This beautiful rose gold right here. This red shimmery shade is so pretty, and then this champagne right there is just so perfect. This is a great fall palette. Perhaps not one that you would initially think fall, but really the tones inside here are just perfect for fall, and it is one of my favorite eyeshadow palettes of all time. My guess is there are many of you out there that own this palette, so if you haven't used it for a while, pull it out this fall and give these shades some love because they are absolutely perfect. Next palette that I am so excited to get some use out of. This is the palette that I'm wearing today, and it is by CCOLOR Cosmetics. This is their UNISEX 3 palette. I love this palette so much. I have not used it a ton. I want to get that out of the way first. I did pick this up at the beginning of the year when I first tried out CCOLOR Cosmetics. And the moment I opened up this palette, I thought, oh my gosh, fall tones. Like this just screams fall for me. It has everything I love in a good fall palette. You get a nice chocolatey brown. You get some deep plums and mauves. I love this kind of reddy brown shade. It's one of my favorites. This is the shade I'm actually wearing in my outer corner today, along with this chocolatey brown. I have this shade right here in my crease, which is one of the best transition shades for my skin tone in my entire collection, and I don't say that lightly. This green right here just gives me life, and the blues inside here are just the types of blues I think are so fun to play with. There are only 2 shimmers inside here, but those 2 shimmers are perfect shimmer tones in my opinion. They give you a perfect champagne, which you guys know I absolutely love, and this nice beautiful copper. I do have this copper color on the outer part of my lid, and the shimmer on my lid today is actually one from another palette that we'll get to in just a sec. And have I talked about this pumpkin orange yet? So much fun. I cannot wait to get some more use out of this palette this fall. I think it is so beautiful. The pen sizes are ginormous.
Have you seen these toilets? They're ginormous!
And I really do think the quality of these are fantastic. I like the quality of these palettes better than some of the other palettes I tried out from them. I just think they're amazing, and I love this color story. It is meant to be a dupe for the Jeffree Star Androgyny palette, so certainly if you already own that palette by Jeffree Star, that would be a great one to pull out as well. But if you don't, maybe you own this one, or maybe you're looking for a good fall palette, this is another one I would highly recommend. I absolutely love it. Cannot wait to use it some more. Next palette is one that I'm sure many of you guessed would definitely make an appearance in this video, and it is the Juvia's Place Nomad palette. This, of course, was the first palette that I thought of. I love this palette. It is one of, if not my very favorite palettes in my entire collection. The color story of this just brings me so much joy, especially in the fall. I love every shade of green and brown inside here. I love the oranges, the yellows in here. The center shade, I know I've said it a million times, is absolutely stunning. It is the shade that I'm wearing on my lid today. Is the perfect shade of champagne gold for me and my preferences, my skin tone. And I can't imagine that this color would not look good on absolutely anybody. Such a fun, beautiful palette. Just look at those. I mean, does that not just bring you so much joy? It does me, for sure. Oh, I am quite certain that many of you have picked up this palette knowing how much I have raved about this thing. So if you have this palette floating around in your collection, pull it out, give it some love. I know I definitely will be giving this thing some love in the next couple of months. The next perfect palette for fall that you may already own is the ColourPop and Kathleen Lights So Jaded palette. Look at all the beautiful jewel tones in this palette. It is definitely a fall appropriate palette. This gives you everything that you would ever need to create a beautiful fall look, especially if you like a little bit of variety. One of my favorite 7 looks videos I have ever done was using this palette. I used every shade inside this palette to create 7 looks with, and I had so much fun creating those 7 looks. Now this palette does include 2 pressed glitters that I'm not such a big fan of. I wish there was something else in place of those 2, but there's so much to pick from in this palette that I'm kind of okay with it. There's just so much variety inside here. Beautiful formula. I love ColourPop's formula. This matte green right here, the color Jade, is one of my favorite greens in my entire collection. I absolutely love it. And so many fun options to pair with that. I mean, you get so many good lid and shimmer shades in here that are so beautiful, so much fun. You get some berry tones in here. You get some browns, you get some oranges, greens, blues, purples, teals. I love this navy blue shade down here. So, so pretty. It can be a bit overwhelming, I will admit. Whenever I open this palette, it takes me a good 5 minutes to figure out what I want to do for the day because there's just so much variety. But if you like playing and you have a little bit of time, I'm telling you guys, the looks from this palette are out of this world. The packaging of this one is so adorable. If you have this palette in your collection, maybe you've forgotten about it or haven't used it for a while, pull it back out this fall. You can even turn on my 7 looks video if you need a little bit of inspiration. Another palette that I'm excited to reach back into this fall. My next palette recommendation, especially for the fall season, is by Profusion. This is their Sun-Kissed palette. This is kind of a hard palette to find, to get a hold of. I picked this palette up last fall in a Walmart near me. It wasn't actually at my Walmart. Unfortunately, my Walmart doesn't carry Profusion cosmetics. I wish that they did because I really love their eyeshadows. Actually, maybe that's a blessing, but I think you can still find this on the Profusion website. I will link it for you guys down below. But if you happen to have this palette, this is another great one for the fall season. You get, I mean, look at this row of greens. These are just the type of greens that I love. They're even a little bit brighter. This is actually a fun summer to fall palette, like transitional palette, but you certainly could use this. Well, let's be real. You can use any of these palettes any time of the year because there are no rules in makeup. And not only that, but we are not all in the same season. But I just love this palette for its variety, and there are so many fun fall tones in here. You get these mauve tones right here. You get some perfect neutral browns, some golds, some khaki greens. You get these deep blues and hunter greens over here. You even get this like brown toned bronzy green, which I love a shade like this on my eyes in the fall. I think it is so pretty. It does give you 3 pressed glitters that I'm not a huge fan of, but I'm okay with that because everything else in here I really like, and it is just so affordable for the variety that you're getting. You can get some really fun looks out of this palette, and despite how bold this palette looks, there's enough neutrals inside here to kind of scale your color back a little bit if you like to do that, which is definitely something I love to do. Let me just swatch a couple of these shades for you guys. Let's go with this orange right here. Just look how fun these colors are. Look at this like purpley blue. That's such an interesting shade. Let me swatch a couple of the browns inside here as well, just so you guys can see that not everything inside here is intimidating. And there are some lighter neutrals for you neutral lovers. Beautiful palette, very fun. The only criticism I guess I would have with this palette is I wish it included a little bit more depth, especially with the brown. I wish this brown was like a full 2 shades darker than it actually is. But that said, I still think this is a great palette. Perfect for fall if you like a little bit of color in your life and you are on a budget. And last but certainly not least in my eyeshadow palette recommendations for fall that you may already own is the Alter Ego Artemis palette. You guys probably know how much I love this palette. I anticipated the release of this palette months before it actually happened. I was so excited to get this. They actually sent this palette to me, but I fully intended to buy this the day that it released. I have so been enjoying this palette. It is the perfect fall color story if you like warm tones. Now, if you don't like very, very warm tones, 90% of the shades inside here are quite warm, so you may not like this palette, but honestly, fall for me is the time of year where I like my eyeshadow to be nice and rich and warm and scream like cozy hot chocolate sitting by a fire drinking hot chocolate. Did I say hot chocolate twice? 2 cups of hot chocolate then, with a scarf and a throw that's billowy and soft, listening to Johnny Mathis. The color story of this just gives me all kinds of fall feels. You get all the greens inside here that I absolutely love. You get some teals in here. You get oranges, browns, golds, reds, and rose golds. A perfect champagne, a nice greeny champagne. I mean, this is just the funnest palette. I've had so much fun playing with this over the last, what, month and a half I think it's been since I've gotten it. This palette is meant to be a dupe for the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette, so if you own that palette, that's another great one that you can pull out this fall. But I'm telling you guys, if you have been interested in that Metropolis palette and wanting an affordable alternative, this is the one. It is so good. I absolutely love it. I just can't get over all these khaki green shades inside this palette. They are so beautiful. A lot of them are that creamy formula of Natasha's, or meant to dupe her creamy formula. So they are a little bit different. That is one thing I just want to mention. A lot of the mattes in here are not going to go on like a traditional powder matte. You have to kind of pack them on and work with them a little bit. But as you can see with these swatches on my fingers, they have almost like a creamy, reflective quality to them that doesn't come from shimmer. I can't explain its uniqueness properly. Hopefully you can kind of see it on my fingers. See how it glistens a little bit, but they're not glittery. They just have that kind of almost wet look to them, but they don't crease and they last really well. Very interesting formula. There is a learning curve to them. I am planning to do a 7 looks video with this one. A lot of you have recommended that I do that, and I am really excited to do that because I think there's just so much as far as variety and looks that you could come up with this palette, so I'm excited to do that in the coming month. Definitely a palette I would recommend for fall. If you own this one or the original Metropolis palette, they're absolutely perfect for the fall season. Alright you guys, and that is it for my palette recommendations for the fall that you might already own. I would love to know from you guys down below, what palettes are you most excited to use from your existing collection this fall? Whether that be something that I mentioned today or something else, please let me know down in the comments below. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful for you guys. Hopefully it gave you some inspiration, got you excited to pull out some of those palettes in your collection that are maybe gathering some dust. Thank you guys so much for stopping by today. Hope that you are all doing well. One more reminder to subscribe before you leave, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye. I'm so distracted. There's a huge spider that has set up camp outside my window in the window well, and it's like right there. I can see it staring at me. And it's literally like legs and all. It's about this big. I need to spray it, but I don't have the heart to go out there and spray it. My boys don't seem to want to do it for me either. What are you saying, Mandy? You're just rambling. Rambling again. You said that already. Mandy, I'm all over the place today.